So how many people in here have heard of or know about the new initiative cycle that we have been using in the district for the last couple of years? Okay, mostly the instructional services and principals and site leaders, because that's where we've really started our initiative planning. But as I was looking at this, I thought this also really applies to management in our classified ranks as well, and in all kinds of different departments. There are new initiatives coming out of transportation and out of technology and budget, and so I thought it'd be great to have an opportunity to calibrate and have everybody look at the district as a whole, because these initiatives that we do impact each other, they impact our students, they impact our teachers, and to have a more global sense of what we're doing in the district. So first of all, it's always good to have a definition of terms and what a new initiative is. And we're using the term new in kind of a variety of ways. So I'm going to take you down the list a little bit because it is something that we may not have done before, or it's something that we did a long time ago and we discontinued, or it's simply just something that really is going to have a widespread impact across the district that we need to be cognizant of, and the impact that it's going to have on other people. And finally, the last bullet is really important, is it's something that maybe requires resources that we don't currently have, and resources can include personnel, it can include budget, it can include any other sort of materials or resources as well. So, how many people have been in education for more than 10 years? Raise your hand. Wow, really almost the whole room? Okay. How many people have been in for more than, you just keeping your hand up, Chuck? How many people have been in for more than 20 years? Still more than half the room. What about 30 years? Let's see if our 30-year veterans. Okay, so I see the 30-year people around the room, so those are going to be people who are going to have a lot of interesting input because they can think back to the early days and what our history has looked like. What about in Fremont? How many people have 30 years or more in Fremont? Look at that. That's pretty amazing. All right, well, congratulations on that tenure. What we're going to do is talk about what initiatives have looked like in the district, as well as just some of the pitfalls of new initiatives. So take a look at these different topics, and I'm just going to have you raise your hands if you've ever experienced any of these things. So raise your hand if you've experienced initiative overload. Too many at one time, followed by many more to come. Okay? What about flavor of the month or year? This is the hot new thing. It's a fad. It's going to be great. All right. How about failure to launch? Oh, this is going to be so awesome. And then all of a sudden, where'd that thing go? It just fizzled out. All right. What about feel-good programs or projects? Oh, this is going to make everybody so happy, but we have no data to support it. Okay. All right. What about big picture thinking? Good idea. This is really awesome, but we have no resources. We don't have PD. We have no materials. Okay, good. Lots of people for that one. Missing the why. Why are we doing this? What does this have to do with student learning? What about, hey, we got this new grant. I think I just have one that's on the board agenda for next week. And I'm like, what are we doing with this $1 million that we just got? What about parent and community opposition? Oh, let's launch this initiative, and then all of a sudden the parents are like, what are you doing with my children? I should see a lot of hands for that one. What about top-down? Administration, superintendent, principal, great idea, and everybody down at the staff level is like, I don't like this at all. Okay? And then what about, I just came from this conference, and I have this great idea. And somebody's imposed that great idea on you. Okay, that probably was me at some point, so I just apologize in advance. All right, so now that you've had some of these kinds of experiences, I want you to do some conversation with somebody at your table and talk about some initiative, and whether you're new to the district and you have an initiative from your past district that you can share, or somebody who's been around for a long time, you can use either of those experiences. Talk about what either the school, the department, or just the district as a whole attempted to implement that did not go well. Okay, so this was a failure in one way or another. What was the initiative? What contributed to its failure? And was there anything that could have saved this initiative by doing something different? Okay, so 5 minutes of table talk. Talk with the person next to you. Okay, so Without going into detail, I just want people to say the name of the initiative or a phrase that is related to the initiative. So raise your hand, tell me, and I will not get my feelings hurt if it's an initiative that I brought to the district. That's okay. All right, name one.
Walkthroughs.
Walkthroughs, okay? Instructional rounds, okay? What else? What else?
Sprint, Nextel, Direct Connect, two-way radio.
Okay. I see that one resonated with a lot of people. Okay. What else?
We said positive promotions.
Positive promotions, the little promoting positivity, those little wristbands. Remember those 4 or 5 years ago? All right, what other initiatives? Yes?
The first attempt of standard-based report cards.
Report cards, that was a huge one in our district that really had quite an outrage around it. Any other initiatives that you can think of that fizzled, bombed, or otherwise? Say it out loud.
Sex ed.
Sex ed. Yes, that was a big one that we all felt the pain from in some way or another. Yeah, way back, Julie.
New math.
New math, okay.
It was there for like 3 years and gone.
And then it became old math. Okay, good. So everybody has some experience with a failed initiative. And so what we're going to do is talk about how to think through initiatives a little bit more strategically and with intentionality so that we can have a better handle on whether or not something should be launched or something that should be held back. And like I said, Instructional Services has done a lot of initiatives in the district and has gone through some different processes, and I'll show you some of those in a little bit. But this is the process that we came up with a few years ago. And it really is a 10-step process. Some of the steps are very quick, some of the steps are very long, and I'm going to go through what they look like. So the first one is just research and planning. Why are we even doing this? What's the background we need to consider? Is there any baggage that we have from the past around this topic? Is there potential for confusion or outrage or just a lack of understanding our community? Do we have resources for it? So just really kind of a big picture look at what is this thing that we're trying to do? Why are we trying to do it? And really what's it supposed to do for impacting our students? And so that is just really the first level where you're thinking through the idea. Stage 2 is bringing your idea to a group of people who will be your thought partners on it. It can be a team that you're already on. It can be a team that you just gather together. The more diverse the team, the better. You don't want everybody who thinks like you. You don't want everybody who says, oh, this is such a great idea. You want some people to challenge some of the things that might be missing in it. You want people who have a completely different department than you to run it by because they may think of an impact that you didn't think of. And so what you're looking at here is you're going through just a 15-minute presentation with that group of people. And you're talking about, what is this initiative? If it does relate to professional learning communities, which a lot of our instructional initiatives do, because we want to make sure that that's embedded in our focus, and then talk about what's the data that is driving this need. Are we doing it because it sounds good, feels good, or we just got money? Or is it because we actually have data points that are saying, guess what, our kids are struggling in this way and we need to address that need. Or our teachers need a more efficient way of doing business, so that's why we're doing this. So you have to actually have some rationale behind it. So this is all about the rationale. And then what are the tools to measure it? How long is this initiative going to take? And what are your resources that you need? And then really most importantly, and where we fail a lot in our initiatives, is how do you engage stakeholders in the initiative process and get their feedback so that you can see what the initial reactions are before you get too far in that initiative. The next step is, especially if you're as a large school or a large team, is that you have to figure out where the priorities lie. If you're a principal and you're trying to implement 5 different initiatives, where does this new initiative fit within the things that you're already doing in your school? And so if you flip in your packet to, hopefully I have it in here. No, I don't have the actual template in here, but if you click on the link, and you all have the link to this, it's actually a criteria where you look at and give point values to your initiative, and then you also rank it among all the other initiatives that you're doing either in your department or your school or in the district overall. So it's looking at, is it strategically aligned to other initiatives that we're doing? Is there an impact on student learning? Does it have equity? What's the connection to other initiatives? And then at the end, you come up with a point value which shows, is this a high priority initiative, or is it something that is a lower priority? And then you have all your initiatives ranked along here in those blank spaces, and then you can see this one has major impact on equity or student learning or some other criteria, and it may take precedence over something else you've already started. It may blend in with something that you've already started. So it helps you balance in more of a data-based way of what initiatives should be launched in what order and why. So the next stage of the cycle is doing some prototyping or piloting. You got to test it out, especially if it's something that really is an enormous change for the district or an organization. So figure out how to refine your plan, do it on a small scale, be very strategic about where you decide to do your pilot or your plan, because you want to make sure that there's enough diversity, that there is good information coming back. Oh, this works really well at Mission, but it would be a complete flop over at Irvington. And so you want to think about like what your diverse groups are that you're looking at employing this initiative on. And then to bring it to whoever your supervisor is to get approval to move on to the next step. The next one is about conducting that engagement that I talked about that can be a real gap when we are doing our initiative process. And this is about who do we need input from? Who do we need buy-in from? And then also, what is going to be happening in this pilot with all of the people at sites? We do so many decisions at the district office related to technology, budget, time cards, all kinds of different things. And then the people at sites are like, what are we doing now? How did that come along? And we don't necessarily always calibrate with each other. And suddenly you have 16 different things that you're employing because we didn't know that we're moving completely to the Google platform and getting rid of this or that. And it has an actual impact on the people who are the end users. And then also, it's really important to plan how you're going to respond to that negative feedback or the resistance, because it's going to be there regardless. You're always going to have people who don't like what you're doing. I know this very, very well. Then it's all about the data. Through your prototype and your pilot, you look at what is the data that you gathered, and you make adjustments based on that data, and then decide whether or not you're going to have that data where you need more data or more collection of information, and what is going to move into the next step, which is the most important step into the process, and that's making your decision. So look at all this. How many times do we go straight to step 7? We're going to do this thing. And we have not done any of the legwork in steps 1 through 6, and we just make a decision, okay, we're going to either do it or we're not going to do it. And so this is the decision-making point. It's okay to not go forward with an initiative. It's okay to say, that thing didn't really have great results from the prototype. And one of the things that we did in the Instructional Services Department is we looked at those, and some of them we just stopped. We said, okay, we didn't find that we were really getting enough of what we thought we were going to get out of this product or get out of this initiative, and we just said, okay, we're not going to do this, and we're not going to, in things you don't even know about, that we just stopped before we even continued. And so this is a point of honesty of, is this a good idea or is it not? If you do get past that point, you have to really think about what's your professional development. If we move to Google Docs, or if we move into a new system for taking attendance, or anything you can think about just in people's daily lives, how are you going to train them so that they can be successful at it? Because really what happens in the failure point when you do initiatives is if you don't provide training or professional development, people don't use the tool that you've provided for them. And then the whole thing really ends up being a waste because unless it's something that they are forced to learn because they have no other option, but we don't really like to do those as much as possible. And then the next is to actually implement the initiative itself. And this is just you put it into action. This is an interesting visual that I found, and it's not my own. It came from a researcher who talks about what's above the iceberg and what's underneath the iceberg. And really, the things that we do above the iceberg are the things that we say we're going to do. It's the stuff we put in the mission. It's the things that we put in our goals and activities. These are our strategic plans. So like your SPA plan or your safety plan, all of those plans that we have, it has the things that we say we're going to get done. And then if you take a look at what's beneath the iceberg, then you have all kinds of cultural things that are going on in your site or your department or in the organization overall. This is what tanks your initiative. So I just wanted you to take 30 seconds and talk about one of those things that you've seen as a factor in one of the failed initiatives you discussed. So go ahead and talk with each other for another couple of minutes. Just using the tools that we have, and these are really powerful tools. These are the things that bring into people's core beliefs and senses of safety, the lowest levels of Maslow's hierarchy. And so you have to deal with some of those before you're dealing with getting people to buy into your new idea. And then the last one is really you just have to provide that ongoing support, because if you don't provide the ongoing support and you just assume that people are going to continue to move on with whatever that initiative is, you're not taking into account that there's turnover. There's new people who come into the department and the district and the staff, and they don't know what it is. And if you're not the one who's providing that information, guess who is? Maybe people who love your initiative, or maybe people who hate your initiative. And so you should really do that intentionally and make sure they get that support so they can carry it on. And also, finally, not every initiative should last forever. Sometimes initiatives have a natural sunset, a natural time when they go away and they give way to other initiatives. That's called growth and change. And we need to make sure we're not just leaving it there, because then that new initiative becomes the sacred cow, and then you can never get rid of it and you can't make changes. And so that evolution is really important. So those are the 10 stages, and here are some of the instructional services initiatives that we've been implementing for the last several years. You have them on your PowerPoint, on your sheet as well, and where we are in the process of implementing all the way through the beginning stages, all the way through ongoing support. And you can see that we have a lot of different things that we've been working on. And again, why I'm bringing this to the larger group is because this is just one department's work in initiatives, and schools are doing initiatives all the time, as well as our business services department. So the next and last part of this conversation is going to be, let's talk about the present and the future. Look at those 10 stages in the new initiative cycle and discuss where your school department or the whole district is in implementing that initiative. And then I have some guiding questions here. What is it? Where are you in the process? Are there stages you should revisit because you skipped them? And there, as I mentioned, some key stages. Maybe you didn't get stakeholder input. Maybe you didn't do a tuning protocol with a large group and figured out that there are pieces that might be changed on the earlier levels. Are there additional steps that you need that aren't in the 10 steps? There may be other things, depending on your initiative, that you might need to do outside of just these 10 steps. And then also, what do you think's going on beneath the iceberg on your initiative? And what support would you need in order to move on to the next stage? So this is going to be the last part of our conversation. I'll give you a little bit more time with this, about 10 minutes or so that your groups can, either in partners or triads, talk about, each person get a chance to talk about where an initiative is and then what's going on and what you need to do to get to the next step. So go ahead, next table talk. So I heard a lot of great, honest, reflective conversations where people were saying, I went from step 2 to step 10, skipped everything in the middle. I was saying the middle is the mucky stuff. It's not very fun. It's not very exciting. It's a lot of just that grunt work, the leg work, and it's not something that you necessarily want to spend time on, but it's necessary to spend time on because otherwise you end up getting too far ahead of yourself and then things don't always work out the right way. I also heard some people talking about timing. And timing is a major factor. Sometimes it's just not the right time to do something. And you have to look at the climate around you. What's the culture, what's the climate, and also what's happening just in the world and the community. And you know, there's a lot of elements that matter in that way as well. And also that beneath the iceberg piece is really key. Because there may be something or someone who is your beneath the iceberg person, and they have some major influence over other people. And so it's a tricky balance, but it is something that people have really just decided that they need to do because it's what's best for kids, it's what's best for the organization, and you can't just not do something because some people are going to be cranky about it and don't want to implement it.